Welcome back. We're here with David Webb, Arva Rice, and Keith Boykin. We're discussing the election, what issues are at stake, and now I'd like to turn just a little bit and discuss a little bit of Tea Party. I think one of the challenges people have with the Tea Party is that when you poll sometimes Tea Party members and other conservatives, on the one hand, they largely favor smaller government, but at the same time, they favor veterans benefits, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, all the things that cost money.
And you're right. We need a restructuring of our entitlement programs. Those that are already vested in the system, we need to take care of them. We also need to start.
What does that mean? Do you want to cut them? You want to eliminate Medicare and Social Security? Is that what you're saying?
Keith,
the reality
of the bitter pill is we are going to have to restructure.
Do we have to cut
some?
Social Security?
We don't have to cut it. We have to restructure part of it for the new people coming into the system.
What does that mean?
Well, let's talk about this restructuring, because I think one of the issues that organizations like the Urban League are faced with is how to hold on to these social programs, how to hold on to these entitlements, as you call them, at the same time that we have a fiscally responsible government. In other words, how do we hold on to the things that poor people need, that black people need, that brown people need so desperately, at the same time that we keep in mind that the country is in an economic crisis?
The conditions that Barack Obama inherited with the collapse of the banks, and it was just really something we had not seen in decades. And I think that it's important that we, as an American people, continue to support basically our social netting, and to be able to provide that for individuals. And just because those folks who need support and help are black and brown in 2010 doesn't mean that they don't need the same supports that were needed by people who were immigrants back in the 40s and the 30s. And so why is it any different now? The wives and the widows were cherished and they needed to be helped and supported back then, but now that they're black and brown and may not speak your language, now suddenly these are folks that are on welfare and are on people who are not giving back.
So blatantly misrepresented. 12% of the population of America is black. Most of the people on entitlements are non-black. So you have got to get off the talking points and onto the policies.
But I think with all due respect, I think that's the point. Is that welfare and the word public itself has been racially coded against all evidence to the contrary. I mean, that's, I think, the argument that people are making.
But we have to stay on the numbers. We have to stay on the numbers. 65% of the people on welfare are not black in America. That's roughly that number.
Does the Tea Party know that? I think that's the question. That's the question that I want you all to.
The reason why people are so anti-welfare, anti-entitlements, anti-government spending is because they think it's going to black people and minorities and people who they are not part of. They don't realize that Social Security and Medicare, which they love, and veteran benefits, which they love, are primarily benefiting them. And so this has been a messaging problem from day one. I think I blame Barack Obama and the Democrats for not getting the message out, not defending the message, and the Tea Party crowd and the Republicans have completely hijacked the truth and distorted what the reality is.
I mean, what do you say to people who say that they've racially coded a message on the one hand, and that this whole narrative of, I'm taking our country back is racially coded and dangerous?
It's not racially coded. The Tea Party movement didn't come out of a reaction to Obama. It came out of a reaction to government, which had a 17% rating in Congress, which the Democrats have had since 2006. And since, to be fair to Nancy Pelosi, we've increased the debt under her by $5 trillion, more than any other speaker. You can't even put all of that on her.
The speaker doesn't control. What about George Bush's presidency, who doubled the national debt after we had a surplus from the Clinton administration?
I'm not pinning it on either president. You're putting talking points.
I'm talking about the numbers. You blame Nancy Pelosi, and that's not a talking point, but I can't point to George W. Bush, who's the president of the United States. Come on, that's ridiculous. That makes no sense.
Okay, but Congress appropriates and Congress spends. And
the president has to approve it, too. The president can veto it. George Bush didn't veto those bills.
Did I ever absolve him of his responsibility?
No, you didn't, but you said I was using talking points. Well, thank you very much. Well, so don't try to accuse me of using talking points when I say the same thing you just said. George Bush and the Republicans are the ones who spent us into oblivion. No, it's not just George Bush. But I don't like this idea that Barack Obama, in less than 2 years, has somehow bankrupted our country when our economy is not bankrupt, first of all. The recession that took place started in December 2007. The recession started December 2007, ended in June 2009, 6 months after Barack Obama took office.
I hate to break.
Let's just look at the facts. You said you wanted facts.
I hate to break the bubble with some facts here.
Those are facts. Was that not true?
We start with the repeal of Glass-Steagall in 1998, without getting into the weeds, which changed the way banks operate as institutions, which changed the way this economic bubble grew and was built, and then eventually burst. We have the housing problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. That's now vested almost, what, $160 billion of taxpayer money. We have a lot of problems. They're not just bound to Obama. They're not just bound to Bush. But we have got to get past...
But that's not what caused the deficit. The deficit was caused by funding 2 wars and 2 tax cuts that cost trillions of dollars and doubled our national debt and were not paid for. That's why we have a deficit. That happened under Bush's administration, not under Barack Obama in the past 2 years. Every single proposal has been paid for.
Let's pause there for one moment because we have to take another break, but I want to continue this conversation. I want to talk more Tea Party. I want to talk more policy, and I also want to get some predictions from you all about what's going to happen in a couple of days. Stay right there. We'll be right back.